they've been in there, you may want to welcome to the show.
We're live.
We're live. You're in the chat. We think we want to hear from you in the beginning and in the end. We appreciate that you're here. It took us a little while to get back from West Point, but we're back. It was great.
Yeah, we'll start off because we got a few guys in the chat, so we'll start off with you. We'll go a little bit backwards. So Laura, all of our awesome regulars here. So Laura says, "Hello, fellow Duke fans. Sar had a very good game. It was nice to see him have a much better game. So glad Duke got off to a quick start." That's first. Laura, that's awesome because you set us up as, that was like Caden Boozer-esque, setting the table for us to get started on the program here tonight. We appreciate you guys hanging out, waiting. We were a bit late getting back, but it was a good game. We're going to get to you in a second, Joe. So, Dame Sar and a strong start, I think, are two places to start here. Which one, you pick, which one of those two you want to start with?
Well, it was a strong start. It was everything that we said. Remember what you said? Could we score in the beginning of the game? And it was
15 seconds.
It took him 15 seconds to let loose with a three. Evans. It was Isaiah Evans, quick draw. In 15 seconds. So ball to shot. So immediately. But to Laura, even though we scored 11 points right away, that was probably the only time that West Point could have said it was competitive because they came up with 8 points and it was 11-8 in the beginning. After that, we can talk about what happened. But
no, I think it's very funny because I think we scored more points in the first segment than we did the first two games combined, for sure. I am 100% confident about that. But at the same time, we may have also given up more points than we did. And I'm not as confident in this stat than we did in the first two games combined. Because that Texas game, it was like nobody scored the first handful of minutes. And the Western Carolina, I know, is 6-4 after the first 3 or 4 minutes. So we may have scored more and given up more. And I know, I was talking with Matthew Harris about the offense, slow starts, and it's specifically the 5-man starters, where I had said we had an awesome defensive rating from those guys coming into the game. That took a little bit of a hit to start, for sure, but we had a really poor offensive rating. And that, I am sure, when we do the preview for Indiana State and I go through that, is going to be much better after the way they started this game against Army.
All right. And to Laura's other point, Dame Sar. Layups, he hit them. Dunks, he hit them. The only one I thought was towards the end of the game it wasn't quite the end of the game, when he went up and he's 6'7", 6'8", and he just couldn't finish strong there, and somehow there was a phantom foul, and he got 2 free throws.
Yeah, it didn't. Maybe there's a replay that we didn't see. Being there where you could see how it was called a foul, but being there, it didn't look like a foul. But I don't want to talk about the 1 or 2 negatives for Sar because he had a great game. Game. I don't want to start there. He was active defensively, was picking up steals left and right, and most importantly, he knocked down 3 threes really early on in this game. Which, listen, Joe asked us, I'll jump to this. He said, "How is the game?" And then we're gonna get to the rest of Joe's points here. And the one thing I want to say is the atmosphere in there. The first segment when Army was scoring was pretty electric. The cadets were going crazy. I guess, every time Army scored, it felt like the Army fans in there really felt like that game could have been theirs for the first, I want to be very clear, the first 4 minutes when it was, 11-8. I think then it was 14-8 Duke. And then, it was even like 29-20. There were moments for Army in the first half. Get a little bit closer. Yeah, there we go. You can see all the cadets.
So on either end of the court, the cadets stand for basically the whole game.
They did sit for halftime, which, listen, they needed a break. They did need a break, but they do stand the whole game. Give them a lot of credit. They stood through the end of that game. And then, most importantly, for all of us Duke fans, there was a really cool ceremony for Coach K pregame. I'm not sure. I'm sure they showed some of it, on the TV broadcast and the pregame. Maybe they showed some at the halftime show. But he got an awesome reception. His closing remarks I thought were really cool. He said, "These are the two best teams, two best programs in the nation, right? The Army program and Duke, and I mean, for him, how could he say any other programs where he got his start playing and then coaching, and then obviously where he made his name or quite frankly, he made this show. There's no way we're having this show without Coach K and Johnny Dawkins. Those two guys."
Just a couple other quick observations. So today is Veterans Day, and we were at West Point. I mean, how poetic it was that. I thought that they announced that it was the record attendance for any men's basketball game. They had shoehorned people in because it was Duke and Coach K. And then while you're talking, Jack, I'm going to see if I have an image, because us Duke fans travel well. And whenever we play in New York, even up here in the Hudson Valley, I'm trying to see if I have that picture where I tried my best to.
All right. I'll jump to Joe's next point while you look for that.
Go ahead. Go right ahead.
So Joe said, huge breakout game from Sar. I won't lie, I ended up putting up this game in the background and started watching Wake Forest versus Michigan and Florida State versus number 10 Florida. Michigan beat Wake 85-84 in OT, and Florida beat Florida State 78-76. The ACC is looking a lot better this year. Louisville is
great observation.
Yeah, hold on. Let me just finish. Louisville, he said, was beating Kentucky 69-54 at the moment, and as you, I'm sure, know, Joe, they ended up winning that game. And it's very funny you say that, because when we were there at the end of the game, I was looking through the scores. I saw the same thing. I said, wow, Wake Forest almost beat Michigan, and Florida State gave everything to Florida, and Florida State was picked in the back third of the ACC. And I wonder what the Miami-Florida game is going to look like Sunday night now with that result. But yeah, I was thinking the same thing. The ACC looks much better, and I thought it would be better coming into the season, but it looks like it's going to be even better than what I thought. I think it's going to be a six bids for the tournament at least, is my bold prediction as of November 11th, 2025.
So Florida won by 1 point?
I think they ended maybe a couple points.
I think it was a 1 point game too. Florida is having a tough start to their season.
2 points. They won by 2 points. They sure are. Listen, life after Walter Clayton, Will Richard, Elijah Martin, everyone loved Boogie Flan, Xavier Lee. I think they're just fine, but they're not Walter Clayton. That guy was
the assassin. So let me see if I can get this one on there. If you can see behind the banners, you see everyone in blue.
It was more or less visible.
In blue, and I will tell you that on our side of the court, that was the opposite side of the court, every other person with us there had on Duke gear, and it wasn't like the other person had on Army gear. There was some of it, but the opening segment, boy, it was electric in there when it was 11-8, and they were scoring from three. They had 2 3-pointers. It was like Do you think? No, this isn't really going to happen, is it? And then Duke just decided to.
They extended the lead, but it really wasn't until the start of the second half when all of a sudden it was. Has it been 6 minutes and they only have 3 points? And then the lead just kept growing and growing. There was also a moment in the first half when Duke had got to 29 points, like 8 minutes in, and then they kind of got stuck there. They couldn't hit a few threes. The bigs, Gangba, Cam Boozer, Malik, they weren't hitting their threes in this one, which is kind of crazy to say considering they scored 114 points. I think there's room for more because I think those guys can hit threes.
So, Jack, just take a look at the chat. And is there anyone else who you want to bring in? Because they've been really, my Duke hat is off to you for coming on early.
Coming on early and
staying on. And remember to subscribe to this show, like us, and anything else we need to add to that?
Oh, I think everyone's already doing a great job of being active in the chat. So
okay, go ahead.
We're already doing that. And
take a look.
I'm gonna jump to that in 1 second. We are 12 subscribers away now from 2,000, so we are closing in. Lawrence Freeman, shout out to you, Lawrence.
There's Lawrence.
Nice to know Sar has that in him. Also, held another team to 60 or under. Well, that's a great segue, Lawrence, because we that was really the only drama we had at the end of the game. JD thought they were gonna get 60. I didn't. Now, what are you trying to show us here?
There it is.
Get a little bit closer.
60. Yep. I had it at 65, and then I changed it to 60 as my prediction, although the offensive score, I wasn't even close.
I wasn't close either. Not even close.
I said we wouldn't go there and,
put a beat down on them. Yeah.
Put a beat down on them, and boy. And that, Jack, as Cameron Boozer sleepwalked through the game. Now, when we get up to his stat lines, but he slept through the game. I can't even imagine with 114 points. What if he came there to play? I mean,
yeah.
His brother had a good game again.
He sure did,
which is a good sign.
And I just want to. So we talked about Sar. The defense was the other comment from Lawrence. Boy, there was a moment when Army was trying to play 2-man game, and they were going up against Sar and Brown, and it was on the side of the court we were on, and I was like, of all the things you could do, trying to go 2-man against those two guys on Duke is the worst option you could pick. The absolute worst. And they were both extremely active. Sar was getting steals. He was completely shutting off driving lanes. And then Malik, it was, he forced a shot clock violation here. He made somebody call timeout there. He had a deflection.
That was great.
He had a deflection here. There was one time when he had gone past the offensive player and then somehow reached his arm around and poked it out of bounds. And we were sitting there like, I don't even know how he got his arm there. He was past the player. But those two guys, and then everyone else, but it starts with those two guys. The defense has been phenomenal again to start the season, and that's a credit to Shire. And I know Lawrence had made that comment on the preview, and I looked through, the years with Shire. We started off a little bit shaky, still top 50 defense, but not, amazing. And then we've been moving up each year, 16th. Maybe I had that wrong. 3rd last year, or 5th last year. We slid a little bit at the end of the season. And now I think we are going to be top 3. I think we are. But that always, Houston, I mean, it's going to be really hard to get them out of the top 3 spots. I expect Iowa State, the way they play defense, to be up in the top 5. But we're going to be right up there with them.
I was trying to think of a good nickname, but the Devil of Deflections. There is no way that Malik Brown, there was that, we both held our breath because there was one play where he had just a beautiful deflection and fell. And we were going knee, shoulder, but he was fine. And he got up and he was fine. And he's just, what can I say about him? Just shoot more. He's wide open. He has a nice touch.
Shoot, drive more like that. I want him to be more. Sometimes he gets it and he's immediately looking to give it back to somebody, and so he's got an opportunity to go be a little bit more aggressive. It's the only complaint I have of the guy. He's a great passer. He's a great off-ball screener. He gets Evans open. Him and Gangba do a tremendous job of getting Evans open off of screens, off ball, and it's fun to watch.
And as much as the last game you had commented about their inability to complete the alley-oop,
yes,
tonight at least 4 beautiful ones.
Caden had a couple near the end of the game, which were like sick. Like he was getting the ball and it was like immediately throwing it out there. Evans had one early to Gangba and then another one in the second half. Evans, I thought that was just because it's on top of mind, just off of that, and then we'll go back to the chat. I thought that was the most complete game he's had as a Blue Devil. He's had other games where he has scored more, but I thought the 3-point shooting, we all know about that. But he was driving aggressively, his passing, he blocked a couple of threes. The defense overall was really good from him again. It was just a complete performance from Isaiah Evans, who's just fantastic. Let's see. Laura says, going back to the ACC teams, with the exception of Boston College still sucking, lost to a team they should not have lost to. Yeah, I noticed that too, Laura. And then Joe said that Boston College game was sad. They are going to be at the bottom of the ACC. Quick sidebar here. Stanford is a team I think that's better than what I thought. And their point guard, Okore, was just outside the top 100 freshman, went to the same school as Sebastian Wilkins. He looked really good in an exhibition win I saw that they had over Oregon, who was they didn't have their best player, Jackson Shellstad, but they looked better than what I thought they were going to be coming into the season. Joe says, hey guys. What's up, Joe? ACBC, Duke's size was a problem for Army all game. And that's a good segue for something you noticed. Go ahead.
But you want to go first because you want to talk about their tiny little Smurf guard.
Listen. I'll go first. Let me get his name, because Jackson Furman, I don't understand what Army's coach is doing. The guy came into this game averaging almost a point per minute, and then he scored 20 points in 19 minutes against Duke. Not, no disrespect to St. Thomas, who they had played prior. I forgot who their other, the other team they played was. But this guy's a 6'3", 170-pound freshman, and he's just, the shots he was hitting were remarkable. And we were talking about this at the game. Like, JD made a good point that if he committed to Army, he's probably not going to transfer for basketball purposes. But I think if he wanted to, he sure could. And there would be a power conference school who would take him. And if he doesn't, and he decides to stay, the 4 years, he's going to be a big time player at Army. Like, this is a guy who, if they let him play more minutes, a 20-point per game score. Easy.
So what'd you say? If David Robinson was the admiral, this guy could wind up being the general.
The general. Yeah, I did. I looked at the stats when we were doing the preview, and I couldn't believe how much he was scoring. And then when we were watching the game, I was like, did he hit another shot? And they were not easy looks, They were a lot of tough threes. So he was the most impressive performer on Army far and away.
Right. But the other side of the size issue was, did they ever, we noted it like 3/4 through the game, they had attempted one free throw because they would never drive to the basket because of the size disadvantage. They just didn't. And the one free throw, which I was like going, Jack, they've taken one free throw. Jack reminded me was on an and one where Darren Harris committed a foul on a guy who hit his 3-pointer and then went to the free throw line. So that was I don't know. Did they wind up with more than one free throw? Was there any at the end?
They did. And by the way, that was Jackson Furman who hit that three. No surprise there. They ended up with 7 free throws. They got a few late. But I think the other point to the Duke size was Army shot 49 threes, which was 72% of their total field goal attempts. They could not get the ball inside. They just could not. Ryan Curry was shooting some from near half court. He couldn't get closer. Let's see here. Let's go back to the chat. Let me I just want to check one thing. So I was saying I thought Stanford was looking good, and let me see if they've started out good. They are 2-0. Okay, cool. All right, back to the chat. ACBC, it almost looks like men versus boys. Also, we are number 1 on KenPom. Well, it's early, but hey, it's better to be 1 than not 1. We were right up there at the end of last season. We were number 1 before the. Never mind.
Almost adding $5 there, my friend.
Almost, but I caught myself. Love Dame Sarr, but he needs to work on his free throws. Okay.
Yes.
That agreed. That was besides some of the decision making on his drives, that is the one thing I completely agree. He's got to get better there because he is so fast. He's going to get fouled.
What did they finish? I mean, I kept looking at it because I always want a Duke team to finish at over 80% from the free throw line. It's a trademark of Duke, so that if they get fouled, I think they wound up there. At one point, it was 22 of 27.
24 of 29, 83%.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you're going to make it to the free throw lines, you got to shoot better than 80% there. And that's a trademark of a winning Duke team. So I really am happy to see that. Even in a game against Army, to your point, Dame Sarr missed his free throws and, but they still finished at 83%, which is pretty good.
And then he ACBC continued with once he works on it, he'll be awesome. I think he's already awesome. It's just he has flashes of frustration right now. Like, oh, you couldn't make that fast break dunk or layup, or you couldn't hit that free throw, or there was the one to me that stuck out was he attempted to drive through about 3 guys and turned it over. And that was the one where he could have kicked it to a teammate. But I think what I've learned, this Duke team makes adjustments game to game. So what do I mean by that? The first exhibition game with UCF, Jordan Burks was going crazy because we didn't communicate well on switches, and he kept being wide open for jumpers. And that got him going, and it ended up being it was a very close first half, right? Then the Western Carolina game We tried like 6 or 7 alley-oops and maybe connected on 1 or 2. And then, just going back, we haven't had a problem really switching. Like, there's one time I noticed in this game with Caden Boozer, who there was a miscommunication. Somebody was open for 3, but overall, we've been much better with that. The alley-oops, Western Carolina, pretty poor. Today, Army, or tonight, awesome. 4 or 5 really nice alley-oops. I think my favorite was Gangba to Brown. That was really cool.
And the ones to Gangba is showing his ability to now be an option for an alley-oop. And I thought that was pretty good. But overall, Dame Sarr had a terrific, it was his breakout game.
Yeah. Let's see. Lawrence Freeman, Harris starting to find his stroke was nice to see as well.
Oh my, wow. What was he 5 for 5? No, 5. He wasn't 5 for 5, but he hit 5 threes.
5 for 7.
Yep.
Yeah.
He was great. He had a stroke going. 15 points will absolutely help his momentum and confidence.
Agreed. All right. Joe, the Army fans were so hype. Love seeing them in the uniform. Awesome picture. Yeah, they were. It brought, the one thing we were talking about, we had been to a Duke game at Boston College, and I said the arena felt like the carbon copy. Same arena as Boston College, around same capacity. But as you said when we were there, the atmosphere, totally different. Different.
And the way that the end zones, if you will, are the cadets.
Yes.
And the cadets, it doesn't matter that Duke is doubling them up in scoring. They're cheering every player that scores. They're counting down the clock for them, not in a bad way, but helping the home team, saying it's 5 seconds, 4, you got to get off a shot. It's just a great atmosphere inside of there, even when you're getting thoroughly beat down.
Hey, I think they would get beat down less if they played Jackson Furman more. That's just my advertisement to the coach of Army. Play that guy more minutes. He deserves it. Let's see. ACBC says, going back to Sarr, 1 more month of adjustment to college basketball, and I'm sure Sarr would be one of the best players in the ACC. He's certainly already one of the best defenders. Michigan is so overrated. They beat Wake Forest by a point in Detroit, Michigan. But credit to Wake Forest. And Duke is currently top 5 in both offense and defense, according to Ken Pom. Yeah, I mean, I was a bit skeptical about Michigan coming into the season, but then they beat St. John's in overtime in that exhibition game. So I was like, okay. But now Alabama also beat St. John's. St. John's had a tough time. I forgot who their other exhibition opponent was, but they don't look the same defensively, St. John's, as they did last year. And to me, that comes down to the guards that they brought in. They're just not the same caliber. I know they were trying to get better offensively. This is not a St. John's podcast, but it just reminded me of that with your Michigan comment. I haven't looked at the stats, but the one thing I wasn't sold on with Michigan was their 3-point shooting coming into the season. So I'm curious how that went. But the one thing I've noticed this year is that it's really not the most important thing. Oh, well, Michigan shot 4 of 25 from 3. So I am on to something there. I am on something. But they still won.
And it continues to make our Monday show on the polls.
Yes.
When we say the New York Times is just bizarre, and they had Michigan as number 1 in the country. So,
yeah, I don't think Wake Forest is certainly not in the top 5 in the ACC. I'll leave it at that.
Wake Forest is not in the top 25.
Well, they're definitely not in the top 25. That's for sure. Joe M says, I haven't been paying attention to Stanford yet. Cal's squad is looking very connected too. Cal is playing Kansas State this week. That'll be a good one to see how they do in that one. Cal it was interesting. Like, they lost Wilkinson and Stojakovic, their two leading scorers, but I think Mark Madsen has done a good job with that program. They had Jalen Tyson a couple years ago, the only good player at the time. He ended up being a first-round pick for the Cavs. They ended up bringing in those two guys. They're going to be competitive. They're going to be competitive. And if I remember correctly, this year Duke has to go to, I'm pretty sure I'm right, California. So they got to play at Cal and Stanford, which is a little bit trickier. Travel on the road. I still think they'll win both those games, but not as comfortable as being at home.
It's not easy flying from the East Coast to the West Coast.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You know a thing about that, huh?
I do.
All right, a couple more here, and I'll get to the medals. Matthew Harris. Hi, guys. Sounds like you had fun at the game. I'm jealous. Was nice to see the improvement. Hey, Matt. Yeah, it was a really good time for us. It's the closest that we could ever travel to a Duke game ever, which is just awesome, being in upstate New York here. So that was fun. And yeah, the offensive improvement was really great to see. Let's see if they can maintain that Friday against Indiana State. But everyone contributed in this one for sure. And a strong start.
Well, although Kansas has dropped a bit in the polls, I'm still looking forward to testing ourselves against a better opponent with a top 3 player in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Top 3 first-year player in the country.
No, I think you were fine with your first statement. I think, Darren Peterson, he's legit. He is really good. The rest of that team, a lot of question marks. But Darren Peterson, no question marks. He is that good.
All right.
Michael Bakhtiar, good game. And I just saw Louisville versus Kentucky. It's going to be a rumble when we play the Cards. Let's go Duke. It sure is.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great.
That's going to be a fun. I don't remember if we played. I think we played them twice. Those are going to be fun games. And then lastly, before I go for my medals, which I'm gonna have a tough time here. ACBC says, talking about Stanford, Jalen Blakes is now playing for Hapoel Galil Elyon in the Israeli league. Oh, shout out to Mr. Blakes. He's parlayed a great senior season with Stanford last year. Couldn't be happier for the guy. And playing professionally, that's... I don't have a hat, but hat tip to Jalen Blakes. One of my favorite Duke players for sure. Just always came in and gave 100%. And I love a guy who plays defense. So big Blakes fan here. All right, medals. Man, a lot of contributions in this one. So here's what I'm going with. Gold, Isaiah Evans. I thought it was the most complete game he's had as a Blue Devil. I talked about it earlier. The threes, the drives, the passing, the defense. He put it all together. Awesome game from him. The silver, I'm staying on the wings. Dame Sarr. He had a fantastic game. He started off really strong, knocking down threes, active in the passing lanes, getting steals. Just a really good game from Dame Sarr.
A couple of hot wings there.
Yeah, there you go. And then this is where it gets tricky. Because a lot of deserving people. You've got Cameron Boozer, who statistically probably should be here.
Nope.
Patrick Gongva had a really good game.
Nope.
Caden Boozer had a really great game.
Caden Boozer, by the way, shout out for 8 assists.
8 assists. Like, honestly, he should be here. But I'm going with Nick Hamenia. And I think a lot of that has to do with...
Controversial. Stop. Yes. Controversial.
Let me just finish, and then you can argue. Okay, let me just finish. Being there live, there, especially in the first half, there were about 3 or 4 times where I was like, "Man, he got this rebound, this contested rebound that was tough." He only had one assist, but I felt like he had 3 or 4 great passes that didn't end up in assists. Maybe they were fouls or missed shots. And I just thought his connectivity, that was the word I was trying to get to there, and his just energy was really important in the first half. The second half, other guys picked up more stats than he did, specifically Caden Boozer, who I think would be the argument here instead. But I just really loved the way Hamenia played in this game. Who would you put in there instead?
He is so active that I could understand why you would want to give him a shout out. But I'm also going to say that 8 assists coming from Caden Boozer and 5 for 7 free throws coming from Harris.
Yes.
So that if Harris, if it was a more consequential game and Harris shot 5 out of 7, it would have been not quite the same, but the 6 1/2 against Auburn. So I'm not going there. It had to be a much more consequential game but he found his stroke. And so if you're looking for, a bronze, him 8 assists in a college game is pretty darn good, especially if you're playing 25 minutes.
Yeah, he finished with 25 minutes. You nailed it. And he also had a steal in the block. Listen, I don't feel great about it. I don't feel great about it, but that's who I went with. And I can't change it now.
Anyone wants to, offer their gold, silver, bronze, put it in the chat.
Yeah, listen. A lot of deserving people tonight. It is late, so I want to wrap up with one final point, which is we spent a lot of time early on this year talking about the point guard position. And those two guys, again, had really good performances. They combined for 16 points, 6 rebounds, 12 assists, a steal and a block, and only 3 turnovers. Really excellent performances from both Caleb Foster, who we did not talk. I don't even know if we mentioned him until now.
But his defense was really good tonight too, as usual.
Yes, as usual. And he was just solid. Like, it was almost like you know how if you watch a basketball game and you don't notice the refs and you're like, the refs had a good game because you didn't notice them? That's kind of how I felt with Foster.
Giving all the grief that we were until we finally, thanks to all of our listeners,
specifically
finally
Laura,
said we're going to stop, being down on Caleb. And since we've done that, we've been rewarded because the last 2 games, you're right. There wasn't that list of, I can't believe he did this. Why did he do that? He's not doing that. He's playing really well.
It started with the second half of the Texas game, and since then, he has just been rock solid. Is that the expression?
Pretty good.
All right, that's what I was trying to get to. So, yeah, I think we covered everybody. Let me just double check.
The 4-minute mark, the Minutemen came in. Jack Scott, Cameron Sheffield, and Iffy. But there really wasn't much coherence there. There's nothing really to talk about. But at the 4-minute mark, they were in the game. So,
yeah, no, I don't even want to say it because I don't know if this is going to count. Can I? All right, even if this counts, I'm going to say it. It might cost me a couple bucks here. But no Spencer Hubbard. There's no Spencer Hubbard, guys. We don't have the electric at the end of the game. That's probably $5. I'm sorry. But
we're throwing $5 in there because you went back to last year. But
I did, but
we have spoken about the fact who's going to take Hubbard's place. And your point had been it took a number of years to build to the fan favorite. And I mean, Duke fans would just go wild in I can only imagine what opponents were thinking at the end of the game, that the fan base is going absolutely bonkers because of this guy about my size who's in there and by his 5th year is actually pretty good.
Step back threes, pull up threes,
drives to the bat.
Yeah, just like awesome to watch. Like he made the end of the games when Duke was up 40. I've already lost $5, so I may as well keep going. It's like you earn your technical.
That's $5.
Yeah, I'm earning it. I'm earning my money here. Duke would be up 45 points, and you would be like, oh, why am I watching this game? Spencer Hubbard would be the reason you're tuning in at the end of the game. So it's going to take a couple years till we get one of those guys again. A couple more from the chat. Matthew Harris says, hit that like button. Appreciate that, Mr. Harris. Michael Bakhtiar says, Malik is getting lots of medals this season. I'm on Caden for bronze tonight because of the 8 assists. I think you're right. I know JD agrees with you too. And yeah, Malik is... We may need to come up with our own category for Malik. Just the amount of defensive stops he gets by himself.
Dr. Deflection. I'm working on it.
Yeah, that's not bad. Joe M. Foster 2 for 3 from 3. Had a great night, 4 rebounds and 4 assists. He sure did. And lastly, Michael Bakhtiar. Spencer should have gotten his PhD to stay. That's a good closing comment. We will be back. Let me check my calendar here. When did I have us scheduled for the... We'll have the Indiana State preview out late tomorrow or early Thursday for you guys, and then we'll be live immediately after that one Friday night. That game will be on 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and it is not on ESPN as far as I know, but it may be on ACC Network, and I was trying to watch Miami the other night, and I couldn't, so we'll have to see. But regardless, we'll be watching that game. We'll tune in. And it is on ACC Network, so we'll figure it out. But hopefully, fingers crossed, by then, YouTube TV and ESPN have come to a deal, and we will see you guys.